So, erosion and people, deposition, soils, and sediments. Eroded sediments have profoundly influenced the development of civilizations around the world. Agricultural development is often reliant on the nutrient-rich soils created by the accumulation of eroded earth. When the velocity of wind or water slows, eroded sediment is deposited in a new location. The sediment builds up in a process called sedimentation that creates fertile land. River deltas are made almost entirely of sediment that has enrolled from the banks and bed of a river. The rich delta soils of the San Joaquin and Sacramento rivers in the northern California, for example, have created one of the most agriculturally productive areas in the world. Loess in agriculturally rich sediment made almost entirely of mind-blown, eroded sediment. The Yellow River in central China gets its name from the yellow loess blown into a suspended and its water. The fertile lands around the Yellow River have been among China's most productive for thousands of years. The erosion control. Erosion is a natural process, but human activity can make it happen more quickly. Human activity altering the vegetation of an area is perhaps the biggest human factor contributing to erosion. Tree, trees and plants had soil in place. When people cut down forests or blow up gases for agriculture and development, the soil is more vulnerable to washing or blowing away. Landslides becomes more common. Water rushes over exposed soil rather than soaking into it, causing flooding. Global warming, the current period of climate change, is speeding erosion. The climate, the change in climate has been linked to more frequent and severe storms. Storm surges following hurricanes and typhoons can erode kilometers of coastlands and coastal habitat. These coastal areas are home to residents, business, and economically important industries, such as fisheries. The rise in temperature is also quickly melting glaciers. The slower and most massive form of glacial erosion is being supplanted by the cumulative impact of rill, gully, and valley erosion. In areas downstream from glacier snows, rapidly melting glaciers are contributing to sea level rise. The rising sea erodes beaches more quickly. Erosion control is the process of reducing erosion by wind and water. Farmers and engineers most regularly practice erosion control. Sometimes engineers simply install structures to physically prevent soil from being transported. Gabions are huge wireframes that hold boulders in place. For instance, gabions are often placed near cliffs. These cliffs, often near the coast, have homes, business, and highways near them. When erosion by water or wind threatens to tumble the boulders through buildings and cars, gabions protect landowners and drivers by holding the rocks in place. So what is important to know here? That erosion is getting very quickly because of the human factor. And what is the human factor? We have many industries that contribute to climate change, and when the climate change makes his work, it just speeds the erosion. And because the sea level rises, we have less earth where we can work, or we can have, or how can I say that? We can have actually use of that land, and the human factor is very important. This actually put us in a trouble. As I mentioned in the last class, the climate change just makes us to accelerate the process of the earth. And if the acceleration by nature is 1,000 years, with humans in action is about 100 years. So it's very quick. Erosion control also includes physically changing the landscape. Communities often invest in windbreaks and riparian buffers to protect valuable agricultural land. Windbreaks, also called Hedge rows or shelter belts are lines of trees and shrubs planted to protect cropland from wind erosion. Riparian buffers describe plants such as trees, shrubs, grasses, and sedge that line the banks of a river. Riparian buffers help to contain the river in times of increased stream flow and flooding. Living shorelines or are another form of erosion control. In the wetland areas, living shorelines are constructed by placing native plants, stone, and sand, and even living organisms such as oysters along the wetland coast. These plants help anchor the soil to the area, preventing erosion. By security, the land living shorelines establish a natural habitat. They protect coastlines from powerful storm surges as well as erosion. It is important to mention that because of the human is changing the environment so quickly, we need to create our artificial environment. So if we don't have some places because the sea level rise and we uh, we cannot live there, we need to create some other places, and this is part of what we have to do. It is important because it is actually something that is happening, and in the future you're going to face one of really big uh, troubles and problems, and you will need to know about this, and you will need to find some answers to these important problems in a near future. This is everything for today's class. Make sure that you are doing your homework in the assignment tab, and thank you so much for attending the class.